Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the International Symposium on Aging World in Asia from Multiple Perspectives. I'm Clio Cheng, PhD candidate at the Department of Social Work and Social Administration, the University of Hong Kong. I'm also a student fellow at the South Pole Center on Aging, HKU. The main topic of today's symposium will cover a wide range of topics. And for the next 2 hours, together we will invite 4 speakers from Hong Kong, Korea, and Japan to share with us their latest research findings. So now we have come to our main agenda. I'll give the first presentation on can robotic pets be future companions, heterogeneous nature of technology acceptance in singleton older adults in Hong Kong. So this is actually a cross-country collaborative research with the Singapore side, but I will only present on the data, also the findings from Hong Kong. You can see on the big picture, there is a robotic-like pets. So it is also from Japan. So it is called Novot, which is a combined word of love and robot. There are actually 126,000 singleton elderly in Hong Kong currently. What do we mean by singleton elderly? They are those who live alone. So probably they are, they need to take care of themselves by their own. And a prior study actually reported that with the addition of 1 SD increase in functional status, the risk associated with loneliness for all-cause mortality increased by 17.9% among elderly who was living alone. So there's some association between living alone, loneliness, and mortality rate. So we have this innovative research study using a multi-method way, also a cross-country collaboration to understand if the social robot can be the companion for our older adults. So what do we mean by social robots? Actually, it has a definition in the international standard. It is an artificial agent embodied with features of a human or an animal. So you can see the pictures on the right-hand side. There are some humanoid robots. Also, there are some animal-like robots. One of the famous one is the Parrot. And then we also have the Novot at the bottom middle part. So the social robots application and effectiveness has been investigated in different kinds of settings, including mental health care and also aged care. The advantages of social robots include increased psychological and physiological well-being, as well as some improved quality of life. So our research objectives are to examine the effects of social robots on loneliness, to explore the technology acceptance of social robots, and also to understand the factors contributing to technology acceptance. Talking about the inclusion and exclusion criteria, we included the Hong Kong residents who aged 16 to 75 who are living alone and able to communicate with the researcher in either Cantonese, English, or Mandarin, and without known cognitive or mental issues, and based on a voluntary participation. For the measures, we use the UCLA loneliness scale. We use the long version to have an overall understanding. And we also use the senior technology acceptance brief scale, which consists of 14 items. And also we ask about the sociability of the robot because it's a companion pet. And we also control some demographics, including gender, age, housing, self-perceived financial status, ADL, and IADL functions. We also add the qualitative part to have 3 times of interviews, like pre and post. And also we do the video recording on the interaction between the older adults and also the social robots. Here is a complicated procedure. We invited the older adults to come 3 times, but before they come, they need to complete a baseline survey first. And then after that, we will invite them to our center to do a pre-interaction interview. So before they meet the social robot, we want to ask them their current knowledge about social robot and also technology acceptance. And then we will give them their space to interact with social robot for 15 minutes, which the researcher, that is me, who will be waiting outside the room. And after the interaction, the older adults will be invited to do a post-interview survey and also an other interview. And within 2 weeks' time, the older adults will be invited again to our center for another interaction with the social robot for 15 minutes, and then they will complete a short version of the post-interaction survey. And after 2 weeks, they will be invited again to come to our center to interact with the social robot for 15 minutes and do a survey and also interview. You'll see that in total, we actually recruited 15 older adults. The number is small because they need to come repeatedly. And basically, our center is quite far, so we can only recruit those who live nearby. You can see that there are no statistical significance of any of the scales because of the small sample size. But we can see that at T3, that loneliness actually dropped, but we cannot establish a causal relationship on whether it is related to our social robot or not. But we can guess that it is because of the relaxation of the COVID pandemic period. So they can go out with their friends, and probably they are more happy to come to our center to play with the social robot. And for the senior technology acceptance, actually it drops after the interaction with our social robot, and we will explain why in the later slides. So we typically found that our older adults can be divided into different user typologies, including the practicalists. They expect the social robot for specific use, such as doing housework for them or act as a medication reminder. And for the traditionalists, they actually are reluctant to acknowledge social robot as pets because they think that they are basically two different things, and they desire for human touch. And for those who are enthusiasts, they actually favor the use of robot pets because they love robots since their childhood because of those cartoons. And they also enjoy interacting with social robot because they said that the social robot will not argue with them and the social robot will listen to them. Yeah, so there are different types of older adults. And we observe there are some change in impressions through multiple interactions. And for the first interaction, we set Novot as a non-moving mode, but we allow Novot to have sound, though it cannot speak. Some older adults have difficulties in changing clothes for Novot because they are afraid of breaking it. And they, at the first time, they actually confused about how to interact with Novot. And they usually talk to Novot like a child or baby because it's just this tall. And then they are a bit afraid of lifting it up due to the horn on the social robot, but they show that they would like to hug the robot. And for the second interaction, we set Novot to a moving mode with a light or soft sound. So some older adults said that they are happy to see Novot because it can move and it can follow them to move. And however, they are still quite unsure about the interactive features of Novot, but they would like to talk to it like a companion. And because Novot can move in the second interaction, they just do exercise with Novot and they lift it up by the window side for scenery. And for the last interaction, the impressions are quite diverse and also extreme. Some are happy to see Novot again and mention that they miss the social robot and they treat Novot as a friend. However, some wish to end the experiment as soon as possible and find it hard to interact with Novot for 15 minutes because the robot cannot speak. So there is a lack of bidirectional interaction. Here are some general feedback on Novot, and we gather it because we want to provide some feedback to the developer of Novot, which is based in Japan. For the appearance, Novot has a cute pair of eyes, and it looks like a baby or Teletubbies, which is a childhood cartoon. And then, however, the rigid appearance cannot let the older adults to associate Novot as a pet or a human. And for the functions, they found that Novot has a very low functionality because Hong Kong people are actually more practical. They want the social robot to help them with some activities of daily living or housework, or it would be great if the social robot can carry heavy stuff. And then, however, they still very unsure about the full functionality of it. For companionship, our older adults who are actively joining these kind of research studies, they do not have urgent needs of Novot. However, some of them may consider owning Novot in a later life stage. And most of them prefer human touch over the social robot if they can choose. For the robot versus pet impressions, the outlook of Novot make it distinct from the real pet. And they believe that the pets have ability for bidirectional interaction attachment, and they need care much more than a robot, even though pets do not speak as well. And however, they also acknowledge that if they are getting older and older, their functional decline may prevent them from carrying a real pet. So they may consider robot pet in the later life stage. So we have some kind of questions to raise in our field, because we think that there should be a need to reconceptualize the social relationship and companionship. Because when we found on a dictionary or the general definition of social, it is actually relating to activities in which you meet and spend time with other people. And that happen during a time when you are not working. And also for companion, it is referred to a person you spend a lot of time with, often because you are friends or because you're traveling together. So what do we mean when we are talking about the robot is called a social robot or companion robot? It makes it hard to associate among the older adults that it is a people or person. So actually they still demand human touch. And to conclude, we think that the older adults we recruited, they show a lower sense of loneliness after free interaction, but we cannot establish a causal relationship of this. And the older adults actually show a reduced technology acceptance towards social robots after free interaction because they are unsure about the functionality. And the singleton older adults were diversified in the level of loneliness and technology acceptance of robotic pets. So we need to develop an individualized and also effective strategy to enhance technology acceptance. So this study is part of the cross-country research initiative, as I mentioned, collaborated with Dr. Kevin Tang at the Singapore University of Social Sciences. And the research team would like to thank Groove X, which is a Japanese company, for lending us to social robots for this experiment. And on behalf of the research team, we want to thank 15 participants who spent the time in participating in the interaction and for their sharing of opinions and experiences. And on the right-hand side, you will see a collage that make the number 15. That is all our older adults who joined this study. They hold the Novots for taking photos. We send them back the photos as incentive. So this is the end. This is Novot. So you can see that it has a very cute pair of eyes. Yeah, we take them to our center's rooftop. So this is the end of my presentation. If you have any question, you can just raise. For those on site, you can just use your microphone. And for those who are on Zoom, please feel free to type your question on the chat room. So any questions from the floor?
Thank you, Clio, for the presentation. And you mentioned about how we define, we need to redefine companionship or social. So what would be your insight from this study?
Actually, I think we need to understand about what social and companionship means among the older adults and also among different generations. Because for instance, for the older adults in this current era, I think they define social and companionship as having human involved in the activities. So we need to be very specific when we are talking about robot. So whether it is a social robot or companion robot, it's just a robotic pet. That is different from their perspective. And for the younger generation who will be like our age, when we grow old, we may think that social robot, it is acceptable because we think social is just online or using our phone. So we need to be very mindful when we use the word during the recruitment and or during the promotion phase. So we need to be specific if we want to tell them, oh, it is just a robotic pet. Would you like to come and join our study, or would you like to come and play with it? It's not just saying, oh, it is a social robot, because when I use social robot on the recruitment or on the flyers, they have a very high expectation that the social robot can talk to them in Cantonese and then know all our slang. So I think as a researcher, we have to integrate some health communication strategies into what we are doing, and also to have an expectation management on the older adults, and also for our NGO partners, if they wish to promote this kind of usage on germ technology, they should be they better rephrase their program and have some kind of expectation management of their clients as well. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you very much for a presentation. Although I'm from the center as well, it's the first time I hear about your study, and I find it very interesting. Actually, it has to do with anthropomorphism, which is whether you treat an object as a human and project your feelings and reactions on these robots. So my question will be, would you think it is a how should we put it? Like, when designing a social robot, do you think making it more like a human is a better way than making it not like a human? So because your outcome is to reduce loneliness and you want to facilitate the process, so likely you would want your participants to project feelings onto the object.
You can say so. Thank you for your question. Actually, because for this study only, this is called robotic pets. But I think for our post-interview, after the multiple interaction, the older adults actually gave some suggestions. They really want such a tall robot, which is human-like, and then follow them, but not to talk to them. They just want them to follow them to go to the wet market and supermarket and carry the rice for them, and then go back home and then just put it down. And it is better. The social robot can wash dishes. So there, I think there are some cultural differences, because probably in Japan, many people are used to robotics, and for Hong Kong people, they just want to rush. They want to be very fast and very practical. So if the robot can act like a domestic helper, they love it. Yeah, I think the technology acceptance will increase very much, higher. So